In modern dating, chasing has become normal. People are told that if you don't pursue, you'll lose your chance. But then there are women who don't chase anyone at all. Not because they can't, but because they choose not to. This behaviour often confuses people, creates assumptions, and leads to labels that are completely wrong. Today we're breaking down the psychology behind why some women never chase and what this behaviour actually reveals. One of the biggest misunderstandings is assuming that not chasing means not caring. Psychology shows that this is rarely true. Many women who don't chase have learned that attention given freely has more value than attention begged for. When someone has experienced one-sided effort in the past, they often decide never to repeat it. Not chasing becomes a form of self-respect, not emotional distance. Women who don't chase are usually very aware of their emotional energy. They understand that constant pursuit drains self-worth over time. Instead of proving their value, they expect mutual interest to show itself naturally. This expectation doesn't come from arrogance, it comes from experience. When someone has learned how imbalance feels, they stop participating in it. Another reason some women don't chase is emotional clarity. They know what they want and what they don't. When interest isn't reciprocated, they don't try to convince, persuade, or compete. Psychology explains this as emotional regulation, the ability to accept reality without forcing outcomes. People with this trait are often mistaken for being cold, when in reality they are simply honest with themselves. You may notice that women who don't chase are comfortable with uncertainty. Silence doesn't make them anxious. Delayed replies don't trigger overthinking. This calmness often comes from emotional independence. They don't tie their self-worth to someone else's response. When your identity isn't built on validation, chasing feels unnecessary. Another key factor is boundaries. Women who don't chase usually have strong emotional boundaries. They don't overextend themselves to gain attention. They allow people to show their level of interest through actions. This behaviour filters out inconsistency very quickly. Psychology shows that boundaries reduce emotional burnout and increase long-term stability. Women who don't chase also tend to value consistency over intensity. They're not impressed by mixed signals, hot and cold behaviour, or emotional games. Instead of chasing excitement, they look for effort that matches their own. This shift often happens after realising that intensity fades quickly, while consistency reveals true intention. It's also important to understand that not chasing doesn't mean avoiding connection. Many of these women are deeply affectionate once interest is mutual. They simply refuse to chase someone who is unsure. This is not fear of rejection, it's acceptance of reality. Chasing someone who doesn't choose you rarely leads to emotional safety. Society often pressures women to be accommodating, flexible, and endlessly patient. Women who don't chase challenge this expectation. As a result, they are often labelled as too proud, too distant, or too hard to read. Psychology suggests that these labels usually come from discomfort, not from the woman's behaviour itself. Another reason women stop chasing is emotional exhaustion. After repeating the same emotional patterns, giving more than receiving, many women reach a point of clarity. They realise that chasing doesn't create attraction, it creates imbalance. From that moment on, they choose peace over pursuit. Women who don't chase also tend to walk away quietly. They don't announce their departure, they don't create drama, they simply disengage when effort isn't returned. This quiet exit is often misunderstood as indifference, but in reality it reflects emotional maturity. Knowing when to leave is a form of self-respect. It's also worth noting that not chasing increases selectiveness. When you stop chasing, you become more observant. You watch behaviour instead of listening to promises. You let people reveal themselves over time. Psychology shows that this reduces emotional risk and improves decision making in relationships. Some people feel uncomfortable around women who don't chase because they remove emotional leverage. There's no control, no guessing games, no reassurance seeking. This independence can feel intimidating to those who rely on emotional reactions to feel secure. At the core of this behaviour is one simple truth. Women who don't chase understand that mutual interest doesn't need to be forced. Attraction that requires constant pursuit usually leads to emotional imbalance. Choosing not to chase is choosing alignment. In the end, women who don't chase aren't playing hard to get. They're not trying to manipulate attraction. They've simply learned that the right connections don't require convincing. They require clarity, effort, and mutual respect. Understanding this psychology can completely change how you view dating dynamics. Not chasing isn't a lack of emotion, it's emotional control. And in modern relationships, emotional control is one of the strongest forms of confidence.